Right now, it is time for our draft, the most important matchups of Week 3. Chris, I have a question for you to determine the first pick in the draft. Former Washington State Cougar Gardner Ginsu Minshew will start his second career game tonight. There's only one other Washington State quarterback currently in the NFL, and he's also starting this week. Who is he?
Oh, well, that's an easy one. That would be Luke Falk of the New York Jets. Thank you.
Why do you get the easy questions? Why do you get the easy questions?
Way to go. Thank you, everybody back there. That was a good one. This is a good day to have the first pick because I did not pop to me that there was like a ton of interesting matchups in this week as maybe compared to other ones. But my first one will be this right off the bat. And I'm going to go the Ravens defensive line versus the Chiefs offensive line, okay? Or, whatever you want to say. If you want to say the Ravens D-line versus Patrick Mahomes. But either way, that is one of the key matchups to the marquee game of the weekend for me. Ravens, Chiefs, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. One of the things you watch with the Kansas City Chiefs, their offensive line, their pass protection is phenomenal. Whether it's the Jacksonville Jaguars or just think about some of the plays you saw last week with the Oakland Raiders. Man, Mahomes is kind of just sliding around, throwing bombs around with nobody in the screen. And we just watched some clips of that Baltimore Ravens defense trying to chase down Patrick Mahomes from last year. So that is a key to the football game because you can't blitz them a whole lot or they're going to burn you because they're too talented on the outside. And you just got to be able to get some pressure with your front four. And that'll be a marquee matchup for me because this Chiefs O-line is one of the better ones in football when it comes to pass protection.
And I love the Andy Reid, John Harbaugh subplot here as well because Harbaugh was an assistant in Philadelphia before he became the coach of the Ravens, and he's been there since 2008. But Andy Reid was the head coach in Philly. Harbaugh, a special teams coordinator who had 1 year as defensive backs coach to kind of erase that stigma that special teams coordinators shouldn't be head coaches. Well, they should be. And Harbaugh was primarily a special teams guy and has been one of the best coaches in the NFL. So that's the obvious first pick, especially because we just were watching on the TV side those great Patrick Mahomes moments from last year's classic Ravens-Chiefs game at Arrowhead Stadium. All right, for me, I'm going to go with the game we were talking about earlier as relates to the guessing game that is going to be played between Sean Payton and Pete Carroll, the head coaches, two of the best in the league. They each have a Super Bowl trophy. They're getting together in Seattle in a game that becomes a tougher task for the Saints without Drew Brees, but we're going to see how good Sean Payton is, right? We got to see a full season of Drew Brees without Sean Payton in 2012. Now we see 4, 5, 6 weeks of Sean Payton without Drew Brees. How can he draw up plays? Can he crack the code on that defense with Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill? Which guy will get the ball more? Will they both be on the field at times? Will they exploit weaknesses in the Seattle defense? That's what I'm looking forward to. That should be a very good game and a very important matchup as these two coaches match wits with the Saints being undermanned, but still having a couple of potential tricks that they can unleash on Pete Carroll and company.
Bro, I mean, you're right. I think this was an obvious second pick right here because this is the other big game of the weekend for sure between Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, and you mentioned all of it, all the things we know the mad scientist that Sean Payton can pull off with an offense. And now, as I always say, sometimes these guys get even more creative when the backups come in because they go, I got to find more ways to give us a little edge or an advantage. So I think that's going to be a phenomenal thing to watch. What Sean Payton does, the design runs for Taysom Hill, and Pete Carroll's going to have to get his defense and team ready for just about every trick underneath the sun as far as football is concerned. So I'm with you there. Good pick. My next one will go to our Sunday Night Football matchup. I think that's where I got to go, and I'm going to go Freddie Kitchens versus Wade Phillips. That matchup right there will determine who can win that football game on Sunday night. Freddie Kitchens, more patient with the run game last week against the New York Jets, but this is one theme I've seen through the first 2 weeks, Mike, when you watch Cleveland on film. Whether it was Dean Pease of the Tennessee Titans or Greg Williams of the New York Jets, putting people at the line of scrimmage, confusing Baker Mayfield, and also trying to make it look like, go throw the ball. You got one-on-one out here, with Odell and Jarvis Landry. Yeah, drop back, throw the ball. It's a really good look to throw it into. And then they drop out and protect the secondary, right? And don't rush. And that's one thing where Freddie Kitchens has to stay patient with that run game and continue to do that so these defensive coordinators are not disguising and trying to trick their young quarterback quite as much. But the battle of wits right there, I think, will go in a long way to determining who wins that football game.
Yeah, I was going to pick one from that same game. I'm not going to now, but I think it's more Mayfield versus Wade Phillips.
Yeah,
He's
sure.
the one
I
that's
get
got to
you.
make the decisions. And we've seen that he does try a little bit too hard to force balls into spots maybe he shouldn't. He admitted he's got to learn how to check down. There was that play where he threw an interception on Monday night. He had Nick Chubb wide open, 15 yards shorter than where Mayfield threw the ball.
Right.
It was tipped. It was picked off. What kind of looks will Wade Phillips show him? And Aaron Donald. I mean, Aaron Donald just, ripped up Drew Brees' thumb last week, not on purpose, but still that adds to the overall aura and stigma of having this guy F up the play, as you would say, each and every snap. So that game, I keep going back and forth on who I like on that game.
I know. Does Aaron
today.
Donald personify the F up the play stat more than anybody?
Yes.
It's unreal,
Yes.
right? He's got what does he have? 2 tackles on the year? That's it so far? I mean, and he's the best player in football. I mean, and he ruins plays like every other play. It's unreal.
Should we just call it the Aaron Donald stat so we don't have to continuously say F up the play and ensure we won't accidentally say the word we shouldn't say?
Well, I would like you to maybe we just name that after me.
You wanted to be the Chris Sims stat.
I wanted to be the Chris Sims stat. So there's the Chris Sims surgery and the Chris Sims stat today. I think we've come away with. I'd like those to be coined, please.
And really, as you learned 13 years ago, enough of the Chris Sims stat will lead to the Chris Sims surgery.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, exactly right.
All right, next one for me, and this is a weird little early season round robin between the Bears, the Packers, and the Broncos. It was Bears and Packers week 1, Bears and Broncos week 2, Broncos, Packers week 3. And, I pointed this out last week. You got a young coach in Matt LaFleur, and he's getting his baptism by going against a couple of the older coaches in the NFL. He beat Mike Zimmer. What's he going to do with Vic Fangio? Fangio coming back to the scene of that heartbreaking week 1 loss when the Bears had the Packers down. Fangio was the defensive coordinator. Back comes Aaron Rodgers with that knee injury and shreds the Bears defense. He doesn't have quite the same caliber of player, although that Broncos defense still has some good players. And Fangio extra salty after getting screwed not once but twice on the last drive of the game against Chicago. I want to see what Vic Fangio throws at Aaron Rodgers. Toughest test yet for that offense because Fangio knows a thing or two about going after, getting after, and ultimately shutting down Aaron Rodgers. Not that it worked last year in week 1,
right?
But it did happen later in the year. So that to me, that's a sneaky great game on Sunday. Because, the fact that Broncos are 0-2, you're thinking, the Packers should win this one. I'm not so sure I'm going to hand them the W.
No, I get you there. I mean, Denver's defense, it's still real. I mean, we know that. I mean, it's not like they're laying eggs out there. And, yes, Vic Fangio does, got a good feel for Aaron Rodgers and everything. Now, it is LaFleur this year, so there's a few new wrinkles there. But, this could be a defensive struggle. I mean, think about the damn Packers. You had to open up the season against the Bears, the Vikings, and the Broncos, 3 of the more intimidating defenses all in football. But the good thing is they have a defense this year, and they can win some of these ugly games. And if they got to win 19-16, I think they can pull it off.
Remember that game?
Yeah.
It was a Sunday night game the year the Broncos won the Super Bowl. And
yes,
they held Aaron Rodgers to like
78
under 100
yards
passing
throwing
yards
or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And again, not the same quality of defense as it was that year, but still a lot of the pieces still in place, and it should be an interesting matchup. All right, what do you got?
Yep, I think, okay, my last one, not necessarily like a battle of the Titans here for like NFC supremacy, but I still think this is a very important matchup and, of course, a big storyline. I'm going to go with Daniel Jones versus Todd Bowles down in Tampa Bay. Making his first start, replacing Eli. I made the point, and I know you've heard me say it, that, the thing that's interesting here is Daniel Jones plays against this type of defense every day in practice and in training camp. The defensive coordinator for the Giants, James Bettcher, he learned under a guy, Todd Bowles, in Arizona. So, what can Todd Bowles do differently, or his plan of attack to maybe make life hard on Daniel Jones, and then Daniel Jones just being comfortable with what he sees? I think that can go a long way, and just to the success overall of Daniel Jones. And of course, if they want to pull off an upset in Tampa, he's going to have to feel comfortable and have a good feel for that Todd Bowles defense. So that'll be something I'm certainly going to watch for early on to see if Todd Bowles does some different things or how comfortable, Daniel Jones looks in general.
It was a win in Tampa, too, back in the 2007 playoffs that sparked Eli Manning's run to Super Bowl 42. Back when they were the 5 seed, had to go on the road. They went on. They did it the hard way. It's amazing that not only that they won 2 Super Bowls, but the fact that they had to really work to get there both seasons.
Yeah.
All right, this one. Now, the New England Patriots have been to 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls, and they would have won 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls if they'd been able to beat the Eagles. And it was a game where the New England offense did nothing to undermine the effort to win the game. Tom Brady had over 500 yards passing, and they scored all the points they needed to score, but it was the defense that fell apart. That defense was run by Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia takes his Lions to Philadelphia to take on Doug Peterson, and Patricia's getting his shot at redemption.
Good one, Mike.
Against Doug Peterson for the first time since Super Bowl 52. So, look, I don't know that the Lions have the horses, but they tied Arizona. They beat the Chargers. The Eagles are banged up, and I think that there's a lot of potential play there between how Patricia does or doesn't shut down. It was a different quarterback. It was Nick Foles, not Carson Wentz, but still, that chalkboard battle between Matt Patricia and Doug Peterson, the decisions made on the fly, and Patricia is going to be constantly thinking about the fact that he'd have another Super Bowl ring, and the Patriots would already be at number 7 if they had been able to solve just a little bit the Eagles' offense that day in Minnesota.
Yeah, that was a butt whooping for sure. I mean, it certainly was not the best day for Matt Patricia as a defensive coordinator. And this is a good one by you. I hadn't thought about that, aspect of that matchup. So that will be cool. And, you said it. I think there's a little danger here for Philadelphia with as banged up as a football team as they are after that Sunday night game and as physical and crazy as it was. I do worry about them. And how can I not worry about their secondary just a little bit against Matt Stafford and TJ Hawkinson and Marvin Jones and Galladay and company? That's a little dangerous too. So I would not be shocked if the Lions went in there and gave the Eagles a real run for their money. That's for sure.
Oh, and another thread, the Eagles defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, was the head coach of the Lions when Matthew Stafford was the first overall pick 10 years ago. So that's a sneaky good game coming up on Sunday.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.